Today, we're talking about the best way to make the biggest impact in your youth ministry this year.
Welcome to the Ministry Coach Podcast, where we give you weekly tips and tactics to help you fast track the growth and health for your youth ministry. My name is Jeff Lascola, and this is
Kristen Lascola, and today we're going to be talking about how to make a huge impact in your youth group in 2025. If you're asking yourself the question, how can this be one of our best years yet? How can we cultivate a great culture and spiritual fruit in the lives of the students? Then stick around, because this episode is definitely for you. And so the short answer to that is serving. But what we're going to do is we're going to unpack everything that entails, because it's not as simple as, so have them serve the end.
Right.
Like, how do we do it in the way that produces the kind of fruit that we're looking for and the kind of culture shift we're looking for? And over the years, I think I've learned a few nuanced, like, tactics sounds weird in this context, but like methods, I guess, of how to do serving so that it has maximum impact for everybody involved.
okay.
And so the first thing is, I guess, asking the question, how do you create a meaningful serving experience for your students? And meaningful, I think, is the key word there, because the cautionary tale here, and I have more than enough examples of this under my belt, but bad serving experiences have the opposite effect that we're looking for. So I don't think you can just kind of throw out a blanket statement and say serving and anything and everything counts and it's all good.
Yeah.
It's actually not. And having a bad serving experience can actually make your youth group or your leadership team or whoever this is designed for in your youth ministry to take a couple steps back.
Do you have any examples that off the top of your head would be a negative serving experience?
We'll get into that.
Okay.
Yes, that's going to be one of my examples. Which
So many
one?
to choose from.
Which one do I choose? And so it's like, this took a long time to learn, because I think in my first few years of youth ministry, I just thought service project equals fruit. There we go. Bada bing. Almost like it was a checklist. Like, I did one.
Yeah.
What else do you want from me? But there's almost this art to it to make sure that it's accomplishing what you're hoping it to accomplish. So here's some things practically to consider when you're starting to think along the lines of service or a project for your students. I usually use my student leadership team for it. If you're a smaller youth group, then it could be all your students are invited and their families as well. Just sort of depends on the numbers you're working with. And we'll actually get into that in a second too. So things to consider when you're looking at a service project. Number one, is this the right fit for our age group? So sometimes there's a really great project, but the skill level required is way over the heads of
You're not going to be building homes
students.
with the sixth graders, what you're saying?
I mean, if you had enough skilled laborers and then they could do like
Painting.
never give a junior higher a paintbrush. I learned that the
Fine,
hard way.
Sharpies. Something really innocent like that.
They could go get the nails out of the bottom.
Could they though?
Gosh, what a tangled web we've woven. All these bad memories keep coming back to me. Maybe your group is different, but one hard and fast rule is I never give junior hires a paintbrush ever again.
Or power tools.
I just was burned too many times. I was like, this is easy. You can do it. Nope, and nope. Anyways, so great example. Like, make sure that you're giving them something that is not only their skill level for the age group you're working with, but also their interest level. And I'll give you some examples of things that did not fly for us. And it was like, oh, we're putting in a good hard day's work, but it was like something nobody cared about and really didn't have a big impact on us or the community. And it was just like, so we just worked to work. Like, that was kind of lame. And I'm sure you could build an argument about, well, that's good for your development, but I don't know. It just, sometimes what we project as meaningful when we put it in the hands of people, sometimes it's just not, no matter how much we wish it were.
Yeah.
So make sure you just like gauge that you're the expert in that age group, hopefully as the youth pastor, so you can know, does this fit their skills? Number 2, is this meaningful work like we were just talking about, or is this just work?
So like a service project at the senior pastor's house. Remember that? Like pastors would always say like, we have a service project you guys can do. I need a bunch of weeds pulled. And you're like, wow, okay, free labor. I see what you did there.
Wow, genius. You can babysit my kids as a service project. There you go. So I'll give you, since you were asking earlier, an example of one that it was not meaningful work. There is a walking trail in our town, a very short one that nobody uses really. It's not like...
It's in a weird
You know
spot.
Which one I'm talking to?
I don't know why they ever put it there.
Same.
It's kind of along
and it's
like
kind of sketchy.
Right, a sketchy riverbed with just bad smells and like there's no reason for it. I really don't know why they put it there.
So it's not like a hiking trail that everyone in the community enjoys.
You're not enjoying beauty from it.
It almost feels like a random little commute trail. I don't really even know the purpose of it. Nobody does, and no one knows it's there, and no one uses it, and it's probably a grand total of 1/4 of a mile at the most.
Someone must have needed to spend some taxpayer dollars.
I have
and
no clue.
Check off a box at the end of the year.
Yeah, so they were like, hey, why don't the junior hires and high schoolers clean brush from the trail? I was like, okay. So we did, and we went out there, and it was like trying to sell this project to the students and literally like just moving some branches and trimming some hedges. I don't even really remember. I just remember like, this is so stupid. Like, what are we even doing here? And it just felt like work for the sake of work. It just kind of felt like, you're useless junior hires. How about you just get on this trail for a bit and kill some time? You know, it didn't feel like, look at us making a difference in our world or anything like that. It was just kind of like, want to do some free yard work on an abandoned trail out in the middle of nowhere? No, thank you. But we did. So I said, yes, please. But I would never do something like that again. So it was just work. And so don't just try to fill your quota for serving by like just taking any old project. Well, it got us outside and like in the dirt, it must have been serving. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know that we're really called to that kind of stuff. I mean, if you feel like you are, then good. We need people like you. But I just felt like
the same project would have made sense had this been a functional, well-traveled trail that people could enjoy, but it just has never been used, probably will never be used.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense.
Should never be used. It's very scary back there. And so you're going to have to use your wisdom on what projects you're considering or that come across your path. Like, I can't answer that for you, but I just have realized I want from now on to put my students in situations for meaningful work, not just tasks for the sake of tasks. And the way my students operate is they gas out pretty quick on that kind of stuff. They're just like, all right, we're done for the day.
Especially on a hot day where
you're just like
sweating.
It's boring, you know? And it's like, so if you can sell them a vision on like, here's the impact we're having, it's different. But some projects just, you're really going to be hard pressed to find the meaning in it. And number 3, are there relational components? And I think that's when I've seen students come alive the most, is when they're serving in a capacity where they get to, I mean, the relational component with each other is huge, but like serving in a relational component to others. Like, I brought my students to an elderly home that was run by the state. And so it was people that it was like, well, their families can't take care of them and there's nowhere else for them to go. And we just kind of would bring some fun. Like, I had a kid who knew how to play the piano, and they had a piano in their like multi-purpose room. And so, you know, he would play the piano and then the girls would do some crafts with them. We played a game. And then it was just like chatting with people, like hearing their story and socializing. And like, that was such meaningful work. And they had to get out of their comfort zone a little because they were shy, like I'm just talking to someone I don't know. But they really rose to the occasion. And then I think they left very proud of themselves. So relational components, I think, are what make the best serving experiences, not just labor. And a lot of organizations are very happy to have your students come and do free labor. However, here's a philosophy I adopted through working with our community service ministry at our church, because we have a community service whole department and with a pastor over the whole thing, and they do big things. Like our church is doing service projects every single day in some capacity. And he says that the experience of the volunteers is as important as the work itself. And he says that ministering goes both ways. So how we handle serving experiences with the students is really important for like a future member of the body of Christ. Like I used to kind of look at it differently where I'd be like, well, you're serving, it's supposed to suck, you know, and like, it's good for you.
Right.
But he kind of changed my mindset on that, where it's like, no, when we're putting our people in positions of serving, we have to remember not just the people we're serving, but the people we are putting in positions to serve. Their experience is just as important as the people receiving. And I was like, really? Like, I thought like we were supposed to just like, oh, well, but what we're doing is we're training people on how to love serving or find their gifts or see it as something they could do for a lifetime, not like, oh, I got to put up with cleaning a trail on Saturday morning, but put them in positions where it was so life-giving that it sparks in them a love and a desire to serve. And you're not going to please everyone. And at the end of the day, it is like a sacrifice to the Lord. And so, but just, I guess overall, don't neglect that experience. Like that one is very important. And then the last thing to consider when looking at a project is it challenging in a good way? You know, some projects are just way too simple and you feel like any monkey could have done this. Right. Like, why did you need me? I remember saying that to someone once. They asked me to help with something, and then the project they were asking me to do, I just said to him, any monkey could have done this. And they were like, but you're the monkey we wanted. Yeah. And I was like,
so go do it.
Kind of feels flattering, kind of feels demeaning. I don't know. I'm here. It's too late. But just like the kind of work that's almost just like, were you guys just scrounging for something for us to do? Like, all right, we're going to organize this bin. I remember, oh my gosh, this unlocked a memory. My worst serving experience ever. I was on the cheerleading team at a Christian school in junior high. And if you were really, I don't know, like showing up to practice on time, coming to all the games, just kind of being a good example, you would get invited to something called the Coaches Invitational. And it just was kind of like student of the month is sort of how it felt. So one time, a bunch of girls and I got invited to the Coaches Invitational. And here's what it literally was. It was such a bait and switch. We show up at her house and her living room is full of unwrapped Christmas gifts. And she, this is not a joke, had us wrap her Christmas gifts.
Congratulations.
For her family. But here was the fun part. So that was like a service project for her. Like you were saying, come over to the pastor's house and
repaint his fence.
Like, yay? Like, am I unspiritual if I'm not into this?
I got a lawnmower that won't start, so you can get it working.
So she would say, let us come into her kitchen one at a time and make a pie on her kitchen table by ourselves.
Was it also for her family?
I think we did get to leave with the pie, but I just remember it was like dead silent and I'm just like in her kitchen alone and I'm just like filling this pie with like apples or whatever we were doing. And I'm like nowadays I'd be like, am I on a reality
Right.
show? Like, this is nuts. So yeah. And then when you were done making your pie, you went back into the living
back to
room,
wrapping.
little Santa's elves wrapping all her gifts. And there were a ton. I'm like, where did you get all this stuff? Looks like she cleared out some like going out of business, like warehouse. Like,
These packages are not going to wrap themselves, girls. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
seriously. But you know, when you're in 7th grade, you just are like,
Okay.
sure. You're not going to like fight like a 40-year-old woman on like
That's funny that was a like
reward.
right.
Exactly. To this day, like sometimes I have to ask my friends, did I dream
Did that really happen?
They're like, no, that really happened. I'm like,
when you
"Whoa."
would have been better off performing worse and not having to go. It says
Exactly.
a
What
lot.
kind of trophy did I win?
You guys, you suckers, you didn't get to wrap all these gifts. But you did get a free pie.
There was no
that
like
you made.
music or food. There, it was just like, we gotta move on. We gotta move on. Okay. Trauma. Okay. So why do we serve? Because people are made to serve. So let's continue with the idea we were talking about before of the experience of the one serving is as important as the one being served, because it breathes life into their relationships with God and each other. And I've watched people who kind of knew each other bond like and gel with the snap of a finger over serving when they have to work alongside each other over meaningful work that fits their skill level, like solve problems together and help each other out. And it just creates like, and I don't mean this in a weird way, but like magic. Like it's just like there's something in the air that it's just like this bonding, beautiful, like I've just seen it so many times and it's like, we did it. We struck gold like here. I led a service project last spring where we built like this beautiful educational garden for one of our local elementary schools. And let me tell you, it was way over my skill level. I did not know what in the world we were doing, but I'm like, I'm here. I'm going to give it my best shot. However, the laborers there were very skilled. And so all I had to do was kind of wind them up, let them go. But watching how people bonded and worked together and just had so much joy in serving and the chemistry that built, like there's nothing like bonding with someone over doing meaningful work.
Yeah.
Like I just cannot think of any other replacement for it. Like I don't think there's any other formula than like working with someone shoulder to shoulder, like, and then watching something beautiful happen, like the things that we built and planted and the before and after, and everyone's just feeling so proud and relying on each other and being extra helpful and wanting to give it their best. Like it just creates, because that's really what we're meant to do. Like we are meant to serve. We are meant to work for the Lord. And so when we put people in these positions where that gift gets to be expressed and that purpose gets to be expressed, like it's like the Holy Spirit just lights it on fire. And it's so exciting to be a part of. And so us as the pastors and the leaders in the church, like creating these experiences for people will be probably the biggest impact that we'll have in your church that goes well beyond that serving day. Like now when I see these guys around church, like people I never would have talked to before, like a contractor who owns his own company who I would never run in the same circle as. He's like, Kristen, good to see you, you know? And it's like, we have that memory between us of like, oh, wow, you know, and that chemistry continues and it gives people. And here's what I noticed too, is serving within the church is a very big deal. And that could be a whole other episode. Today, we're talking mostly about serving outside the church. But there's, speaking of the contractors that own their own company, some men especially, there's not a lot of places where they feel like they fit in
like
to
my
serve.
skill set can be used.
Exactly. So it's like, well, I'm not going to be like holding babies in the nursery, not my gift. I am not going to be in the worship band. Like I'm out of town so much. It's probably hard for me to get on a greeting team or an usher team or something like that. But when these special projects come along
You can
and you
shine.
need someone who knows something about city water, like, which I do not.
Right.
And I was just like, all right, his name was Carl. I'm like, all right, Carl, I don't know where these sprinklers need to go. Not the faintest idea, but I'm going to trust you. And he got to engage all of his skills.
Yeah.
And then the cool thing too is he calls up his buddies and is like, oh, I have a guy here. And now they're involved. And like, what are you guys doing? Oh yeah, I could bring piping for this. And I talk like I know what I'm talking about. I do not. Something about sprinklers. That was weird. And it just gave people who do have specialized gifts in the business world, in the secular world, a chance to bring those into the church.
Yeah.
And so pairing adults and students too was really powerful. So the skilled laborers did a lot of the building, but the students had a huge role too. And we gave them the planting projects. They could fill we had a ton of like pathways. We had to do gravel. They could help fill that. But the purpose behind it was, this is a school that most of you have a vested interest in and attend here, or at least it's in our community. And this is going to be like this amazing program for students. Like they're going to grow their own food and then they're going to like serve it in the cafeteria at your school. Like how cool is that? And you guys get to learn about animals and agriculture. We're going to build it. And then this is going to benefit you and your siblings and your friends for years to come. And so it was a really difficult project, but it was really perfect for all the categories that we're talking about. So now let's move on to the how. So you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, I agree with all that. That sounds great. And you're all fired up. Like, what do I do now? Okay, so here's some of the how behind it. So choose a project, obviously, that fits all the categories we just talked about. And then once you do that and you have a project that you're like, I think this could work based on the 4 or 5 things to consider we just talked about. Number 1, get super organized. Okay, so like we were saying in the beginning, sometimes the serving experience is so bad that, again, it does more harm than good. In this sense, I mean more, not that the project was bad. So let's say you pick a great project, something people could get on board with, but you have no organization going on. And so people show up, there's no
just standing around.
Exactly.
Is there anything I can do?
Oh my gosh. It is one of my pet peeves. And I've been a part of those projects where I'm like, I am giving you my time, which is my most valuable thing I have because I can never get it back, but I'm here to serve. You don't have tools for me.
Yeah.
You don't have direction for me. You don't know where I should be. And I remember recently getting asked to come to help set up something for a special event for a church. And I did it. I showed up and I said, all right, I'm here. Like, where do you need me? What can I do to help? Oh, we're good. And then just kept walking.
Yeah.
I'm like, Holy Spirit, activate, activate, because I was so disappointed. Like, why did you drag me out of bed to come and then just be like, we're good.
Right.
Like, then why did you ask me to come?
It's better for both you and them because A, they're there to serve and it gives them something to do. And also, if they're constantly having to come to you and say like, what do you have for me? What do you have for me? You're like, I finished that. Now what do I do? Now what do I do? You're going to spend the whole time being like, I don't know, sweep that, sidewalk over there. And you're just going to be not engaged in the process either. So from both
and you'll be stressed. It's very stressful. And I've had that experience before where people just keep
constantly asking,
well, I'm done.
You.
Now what?
Right.
Now what? And you're like, hold on, let me think.
Right.
So it's like having the project maybe split up into little, like, this is the cleaning team, this is the painting team, this is the building, I don't know, arbitrary, and then having the right tools is really important. And then another element of organization, if you can, is having a team lead over each of the miniature projects within the projects. So like if you're going to an elderly home and you're going to minister to them during Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter, Valentine's, whatever, around holidays is really good for that stuff. So you might get a volunteer and say, hey, could you run the craft and come up with it, get the supplies, give me the receipt, I'll pay for it. But I just need someone to own that. And then you say, okay, we need someone to own like the music, could you guys put together a couple little songs and I think they would love that.
Yeah.
And then you're the team lead of decorations. You know, I think it'd be fun if we brought balloons and streamers, or I don't know, whatever. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but having people own these different parts. And then you're saying, how can I help you? Do you need me to buy materials? Do you need me to, you know? And so having more leaders than just you being the point person for everything, because you probably will be so stressed and you'll give a short answer like they did to me that day. Like, oh, we're good.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, I don't know, there's too much going on. I can't now give attention to what do you need to do?
Right. And if you were the team lead for just the examples that you gave and someone came in, you would have to explain every single one of those tasks to each person. And that's just going to take time away. And in the meantime, you've got a line of 10 other people who are like, okay, well, I guess when it's my turn, you can explain, you know, whatever to me.
Okay, so that brings up another really good point, is having the right amount of people. So we, like when we do service projects at our church, we will cap it at a certain number based on the project. So there is kind of an art to that as well. Like it's that really thinking ahead of how many people realistically do we need to pull this off? Because most of the time I find that there's too many people at a project instead of not enough. Both are bad, but when there's too many people, you fall into that nobody is necessary. And it's just like, there's nothing for us to do. The project I did at that school, we were good. Then the last day, because this was a huge project, so we worked on it for like 3 days, 4 days. I don't remember. It was a long time. And I remember the last day they sent me a whole other crew of people because other projects were done. And they were like, they have nowhere to go. Can they come to your project? I'm like, okay. But now, I mean, I can't imagine that's the most stressed I've ever been in my life, but I was so stressed out because all these people with shovels coming up to me, where do you need me? And I'm like, there's hundreds of you. I don't know. Where are we? And I mean,
you guys dig a hole, then you guys fill it.
The hole. I was going to malfunction. Like it was so stressful because there were so many people eager to serve, wanting to help.
Yeah.
And there's too many of them. I couldn't manage them anymore. Like it got out of control. It wasn't like, oh, great, my 10 working on gravel, my 10 working on dirt, my 10 working on this. Now it was like just the floodgates open. So be very careful of having too many people on your project. It's okay to cap it.
Or work in shifts. You don't want to have them like, hey, you're going to need to be here for 12 hours today. Can you do that?
Yeah.
As opposed to let's have 3 shifts of 4 hours or something more reasonable.
And we did that, but it just got out of hand at the end. It was bad. And I'm sure you've been a part of a project like that where all of a sudden there's so many people and you just have that feeling like, it makes zero difference if I'm here or not.
Right.
Like if I were just to slip out, you wouldn't even.
The jobs you're creating, it's like, this is a one person job. And now we're trying to make it 2 or 3 people. That happened on a service project once before, right? It just felt like this is so awkward. Right. Like I'll turn the screw and you hold the piece of metal. Like I could totally.
Look at us working together, buddy. Woo!
And it just was, I mean, you get to know someone really quick. I feel
like it's like just a little service pat on the head. Like, aren't you cute? Like, look at you. You can turn a screw. And because people really want to do something meaningful. Yeah. They do want to work hard, but not like obnoxiously so. And so the other problem is obviously not having enough people. And I don't have to explain to you why that is a bad thing. That's pretty obvious. But the point of it is making sure that you gauge the amount of manpower, woman power, people power that you are going to need for a job. Yeah. You know, and when you feel like you've hit it, just say signups are closed or, hey, we'll catch you on the next one. Because again, you don't want to diminish the experience for the people that are coming. And then making sure, kind of what you were saying along the lines of working in shifts, that you don't overdo it. So I would reasonably say if you're working with junior hires, 2 hours is it. Yeah. That's all you get. Do not try to make it go longer. You will regret everything. Right. You will be like, no, never again, because they have a certain attention span of what they can give you. And that's not their fault. That's just where they're at. Frontal lobe. Where are you? It's not there. So don't go looking for it. High schoolers, I think you could probably get 3 hours out of, and adults, I think you could do 4-hour shifts and be great. You don't want a bunch of junior hires on your hands that are bored with hammers,
Oh, no.
you know? So
No.
so just make sure you're tailoring the time well. And like we were talking about before, like picking a worthy cause. So the trail was a definite no, not a worthy cause, but we have an organization in our town called REINS that is a therapeutic horsemanship program for autistic kids. Very worthwhile cause. Yeah. We have another organization that we work with called Divine Path in our town, and they give life skills and culinary skills and job skills to autistic adults. Very worthy cause. We will do anything for them. And that is what makes a project meaningful. Like I'm doing something to impact people who really deserve it. Mm-hmm. And that kind of puts the wind in the sails. You know what I mean? So I'll give you examples of the best ones we've done. REINS, like I just talked about. So I'll go to her and say, where do you need junior hires for 2 hours? Can you give me a project that you think would fit with their skill level? And she trusted us with paint. And here's why it didn't matter that much that time, because it was over dirt.
Right.
And it was painting a fence white. And I felt pretty comfortable with that. Indoor painting.
No, that's what I was going to
say. No, but outdoor where the dirt kind of just.
If the paint drops and it's going to get on anything of mild importance, it's a hard no.
I had junior hires paint my office once. It was all over the ceiling. I was like, thanks guys. Looks good. So good. So good. And then Divine Path, they're an organization that, like I said, gives life skills to autistic adults. So the project we do with them, if you have any kind of organization in your area like this, whether it's Down syndrome, autism, something like that, we throw a dance for them. And oh, I just got the chills even thinking about it.
Formal, like yes. Really nice.
Like a Valentine's Day
catered
dance.
And all that.
Yeah, so
it's a really cool
year,
event.
It's on Valentine's Day. We invite them to our church. I'm just lucky that my guys director is also a DJ. So he DJs the event. You could just make a playlist on Spotify. Doesn't really matter. We do a mix of just dance and a mix of free dance. We cater it. We find a life group at our church who will sponsor it. So it's not like I'm spending hundreds of dollars on catering, and they dress up. We have like a photo booth, and really all they want to do is dance. Mm-hmm. I used to play a bingo game with them and then had this big prize table. And if they won bingo, they got to come up and choose a prize. And I think that was really fun. But all they kept asking me the whole time is, when are we dancing again? Yeah. And I'm like, so you guys just really want to dance. That's it. And watching the students like dance with them and get out of their shell. Like I'll tell the students, when we eat dinner, you are not sitting at a junior high table. I want you all to spread out, go mingle, because they want to know. I mean, they're the friendliest people in the world. They're just like, who are you? And let me tell you everything about everything. You know, they're just so fun and talkative that it just really puts the junior hires guard down. And then they are ministered to as well. And they realize, man, why am I always so worried about being cool? Like, it's so much more fun to just let loose and be yourself. Right. And so we debrief after and like, hey, what did you guys learn through
Very impactful.
This project? It's so impactful. And then,
well, real quick on that, if you go in your town, wherever you are at, and you go to
your town.
Step one, get in your car.
In the town. Now what?
I digress. No, if you go to local restaurants or things that will provide catering, it's always worth asking.
Yes. I got a yes last year.
Yeah. I just say, hey, this is what we're doing. You know, would there be any discount or anything like that you could provide? You know, it's always, the worst I could say is no.
Yeah.
And then slap you in the head.
And I got Jersey Mike's to do it last year. It wasn't like free, but he gave us a super deep discount. Right. And I said, I'll post pictures and give you a shout out on Instagram. And I don't think that's like why
he would have done it regardless,
yes, but it was kind of a nice perk for him. Like, hey, like I know you would never ask for credit, but I'll give it to you, you know? So yeah, great idea. And then we do Starving to Serve, which is another great service project where we've talked about it before. The students fast for 27 hours. They get sponsors for that. And all of the money they raise goes toward an organization called Outside the Bowl, which builds
soup kitchens,
sustainable soup kitchens, like not just feeds them once, but these ones that are gospel centered. So they preach the word of God and feed, I think they give like some crazy statistic of each soup kitchen feeds like 1,000 people a day or something crazy in their town. It's super cool. And so the students, where their service comes in, is they commit to fasting, which is very hard for them. And they raise the funds, and it all goes to outside the bowl. So those are like our 3 big ones that have the most impact, and that I've seen have, like when I ask students, like, what are your best memories of junior high? They always say one of the service projects. Like, no matter how many times we play Predator or go whitewater rafting or give away prizes or do cool events, they always say serving.
Interesting.
Because I think it had the biggest impact. Like, it's rare, which sounds weird, but it's rare to get an opportunity to be a part of something bigger than yourself, because a private individual, especially a student, doesn't always have the resources or connections just to be like, we're going to go serve like Down syndrome community members today. It's like, they wouldn't even know where to start. But you as the pastor or a leader usually can, you know, get in those doors and make things happen. And people do want to be a part of that. They
and
just
being
don't
able
always
to do
know
it
how to start.
alongside your friends in the ministry.
Yeah, you've just created these bonding experiences. So yeah, if anything's going on your calendar this year, you don't need a ton of service projects. Just have 2, 3. I used to try to do one every month, and I realized that was biting off way more than I could chew, and the quality level was going down. So now I have my 3 kind of staples, and I'm like, these are the most impactful, and I can do them very well. And then that's not talking about serving inside the church, like I said, because we do that consistently. People should be serving within the church on a regular basis. This is just talking about a project outside. Yeah. So hopefully that was helpful. I think we hit it all.
Yeah. We did another episode a while back along the lines of service projects. I think you talked about several of the ones here, but if that's something you want to check out, make sure you take that a listen, take that a listen, take that a watch and see what you think.
Take that a listen. I like that phrasing. You know what?
I guarantee if my aunt said that, being 87, I'd be like, take that a listen, must be a saying, and I wouldn't question it.
I think probably most people aren't questioning that right now.
Take that a listen, you guys. The question of the day today is, what is a song that you wish would play as your intro music whenever you walk into a room?
This question is so well timed. I just spoke at a winter camp. I just got back, and I was talking to one of their staff, and like they were getting me mic'd up and stuff. And I said, "Oh, I never gave you my entrance music." And they're like, huh? I'm like, yeah, like I like an entrance song when I like go up on stage and like I'm going to just run like down the aisle. And they're like, okay. And like just trying to go with it. And I'm like, I'm totally kidding. Ha ha ha. But if I did have one
and you wanted to use one,
it would be. What's it called?
You forgot the name.
I did. It goes like this though. Y'all ready for this? I don't
know if it has a name, does it?
Ready for this? Question mark? I don't know. But it's on the Space Jam soundtrack.
Okay.
And the beginning is so good. It's like it sounds like lasers. And then like the beat drops. And I would just like want to like do a tunnel of high fives.
So this is like every house, every store, every time you walk in. Not just talking about speaking. No. This is anytime you walk in.
Oh, this is even better. I just picture like my hair blowing and like the lights going down and everyone.
There's Albertsons and there's what's happening? Oh, Kristen's here.
What? And like no one gives me a high five. I just start running.
That's even better. Maybe I should have clarified. Make sure you put yours in the comment section below.
What's yours?
Mine would be, and I've always thought this ever since I was a kid. You know, you walk through like, especially like a store, department store, things like that, and the automatic doors open.
Yeah.
I always felt like it was like a very sci-fi, Star Warsy kind of thing. So I always wanted the Imperial March from Star Wars. It's a little evil. I think it's more. It's a lot of pomp and circumstance.
Okay, you are a pomp and circumstance kind of guy.
With my giant feather coming out of my hat as I march in with
You know what?
kingly robes.
When you said the doors opening, I just pictured, I just got
Yeah, or that one.
Most of it, like that just felt a little more like dramatic, but
No.
yours feels evil.
Dun,
Which,
dun, 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 dun. Imagine going to every store like that. People would turn and be like, oh, I don't know who he is. He must be important, though. Did you hear that music?
he's
Put
like
it-
Yankee Doodle with a feather in that cap. Wow.
Okay, maybe not the feather, but you know what I mean.
You said feather.
A big plumy one. So make sure you guys put in the comment section below what is a song that you wish would be your entrance music anytime you walked into a room. Yakety sax. Walking into an empty apartment at the end of a long day. That's gonna put you in the mood for anything.
Oh.
All right, let's do a question or a comment of the day, and we'll call it quits. This comes from Amethyst Kurtz, who says, I love that every episode gives me a fresh perspective on my ministry and or something I can take and use in my youth group right away. I've been listening since episode 1.
Whoop, whoop. Oh,
Sorry,
gee,
super
Amethyst.
cringy. Sorry about that. When I first started
Wait,
in...
you're cringy or she's
Well,
said
you are cringy, and our first episode is cringy. She did not say anything about that.
I'm like, that's not okay.
No.
Gotcha.
Amethyst did not say that.
Amethyst.
Okay. Then she says, been listening since episode 1 when I first started in my current ministry position. And since then, I've built a leadership team from the ground up, and my average youth attendance has doubled.
Whoop, whoop.
The tips and advice from this podcast has played a role in helping my team build a healthy culture that encourages growth. My favorite youth ministry podcast.
Hey, I like that.
was
That's a really
one. That was
good
an
one.
all-star comment. Thank you,
Hey
Amethyst.
now,
Appreciate
you're
that.
an all-star. That would be a
There's
good
another
one.
one. We're going to quit while we're way behind. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and we'll
All
see you
that
next time.
glitters is
Dun,
gold.
dun, 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 dun,
Only
dun,
shooting
dun, 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 dun,
stars
dun.
make the mold. Break the mold. Today, we're talking about how you can make the biggest impact in your youth ministry in this year time.
3 days, 4 days.
5 days, helicopter!